States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, or?
I have a question on the agenda. We have an item which we're going to remove, or continue it. Why don't we just take it off the agenda?
Well, we have a speaker here for that item. It's a public
we do
hearing.
have a speaker?
Yeah, we have Tim Smith in the audience here, who wishes to speak, and he may not be able to make the next meeting, so.
Okay, I understand.
We won't have a full presentation, I don't think, right? Okay, but,
Then I move approval of the agenda.
And I'll second that.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's approved unanimously.
Second.
Announcements and introductions. Over here, any announcements?
No.
No?
Nothing tonight.
John? All right, no? Okay.
Just to be clear, are you reordering the agenda in any way to take comments before something else, or? Okay.
No, it's just that the item on the Kia dealership, which I think you've recommended that we continue, we have one speaker card for that. And then, so I think we can open the public hearing just to hear the speaker, and then we'll continue it.
Makes sense.
Okay? So where was I?
Approval of minutes.
All right, so we already, so we approved the agenda, and there are no announcements. And then next is oral communications. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the Planning Commission on a matter that's applicable to the Planning Commission, but it's not on tonight's agenda? This is oral communications. I don't have any card. Nobody? Okay. Next is the approval. Next are the consent items, and yes, let's do the approval of minutes separately because I wanted to pull that.
Move approval.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions about that before we vote on that. I thought we had asked for more information on Tier 1 and Tier 2. We did get some, and I thought even we had asked that staff contact other cities such as our COG to get more information. I mean, I thought it was more than just recommending removal of the green building code. I thought that's what we discussed.
I think there was a catch-all in there where it said the commissioners asked questions. So I think that might apply to all the questions we asked.
Okay. Well, will this get to the council? I mean, that we've asked for more information.
It's in our notes, so yeah, we'll follow up on that. The minutes that we do are more general in nature.
Okay. All right, then. Is there a second on the motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second that. Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain, Mr. Chairman. You've got 3 votes.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was absent for that.
You were absent that meeting. Okay. The next is the adoption of the resolution regarding 25344 Prado de la Felicidad, consistent with the Planning Commission direction on December 5. Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
And you're abstaining again. Okay. Then we move on to public hearing items, all right? So the first item is item 3, file number CUP, conditional use permit 2024-003 to operate a veterinary care clinic located at 23637 and 23639 Calabasas Road at the courtyard at the Commons, within the commercial mixed-use zoning district and the scenic corridor overlay zone. And Joel, would you like to make a presentation, or? Okay, and I've got one speaker for that, one speaker card.
Perfect. Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to start out by mentioning that this project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet per procedure. The notice would also post it on the website and throughout the city at all requested locations. Staff did receive one public comment in support of the project, and that is Exhibit E in the packet. So the property is located, as you can see here in the aerial map, at 23637 and 23639 Calabasas Road, within the commercial mixed-use zone and the scenic corridor overlay zone. No scenic corridor permit was required for the scope of work because no new exterior structures or features are proposed for this project. Surrounding land uses include other retail tenants in that courtyard at the Common Shopping Center there along Calabasas Road. The Anza Hotel, as you can see there, is directly adjacent to the property to the east. Directly across to the south, is, of course, is the Common Shopping Center and also office buildings, part of the Old Town Zone there. And the proposed 4,344 square foot vet clinic is located, once again, as said, within the existing courtyard at the Common Shopping Center. The courtyard at the Common Shopping Center, approximately 177,000 square feet of gross floor area. That shopping center contains a mix of uses such as retail, restaurants, exercise facilities, a dental clinic, and hair and nail salons. So this image here just provides some context for the location of the proposed veterinary clinic. And so the veterinary group will be taking over the existing Revive Wellness and the Calabasas Medical Center Urgent Care, what were the two previous tenant suites there. And that is the reasoning behind the two addresses as shown in the notice, is that they are both two separate suites with two separate addresses. And I should note that if approved, this item, building and safety, once they go through that process, they decide the final address. So they are proposing to consolidate two tenant suites into one large tenant suite. That final address will be processed with building and safety through their permitting process. So here's a description of the actual project. I have Veterinary Emergency Group, VEG for short. They provide for a variety of veterinary care services for emergencies, urgent care, diagnostics, testing for pets, including dogs and cats. The proposed business will not board or kennel any animals overnight. And as you can see here, the Calabasas Municipal Code requires the conditional use permit to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. And once again, the Calabasas Municipal Code stipulates that a veterinary clinic or animal hospital should be allowed in the commercial mixed-use zoning district via a conditional use permit. Here we have the site plan showing the existing site at the proposed location of the VEG Animal Hospital Clinic in the red lines, as you can see there. That previous image that I had pulled up from the street showed the coffee bean that's directly next to the center there. And then the Color Me Mine is also next to the proposed VEG location. To mention about parking, a shopping center has the same parking requirements for all uses other than a restaurant in excess of 10% of the total center square footage. There is no change in parking required because the former tenant suites were both medical offices, and so the VEG Animal Hospital and Shopping Center, there's no change in parking. This is the existing floor plan here. This slide shows the two separate suites formerly occupied by the existing medical office uses. These two spaces will be combined to total 4,344 square feet, and there will be interior remodels associated with the project. The next slide here is a proposed floor plan. This shows the two separate suites combined into one. Once again, 4,344 square feet of space. They have an open floor concept with several rooms, multiple bathrooms, a treatment, and surgery rooms. The existing exterior of the building will remain as there are no changes proposed. Any future changes to the exterior of the building, including signage, would be subject, of course, to separate review. So the veterinary animal hospital is a hospital focused on emergency medical care to pets, including dogs and cats. VEG would accept walk-in patients and animals, once again, would not be kenneled or boarded overnight. The location is a minimum of 250 feet away from any residentially zoned properties. The proposed hours are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. Listed here are the required findings for a conditional use permit per section 17.62060 of the Calabasas Municipal Code. The applicant's proposed findings for the conditional use permit are included in the packets as Exhibit B. With that, staff has concluded that the proposed veterinary clinic is a conditionally permitted use in the commercial mixed-use zoning district, and the project is exempt from CEQA review. And lastly, staff recommends that the commission direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or resolution for denial of file number CUP 2024003, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. That concludes my presentation, and with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Joel. Questions?
I do. Do we have an applicant here? Or-
Yes, we have an applicant representative.
I think I have a question, probably best to the applicant.
Okay. Any questions for Joel, for staff?
I mean, it should be brief. Is the reason no animals will be boarded overnight a city restriction, or is that the choice of the business? Okay.
So there is a part of the city ordinance for a veterinary animal clinic. If there is animals that are boarded or kenneled overnight, an outdoor area is required per the municipal code. However, in this instance, they are not proposing to kennel or board any animals. And I'll let the applicant speak to, they are proposing to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think that part of the ordinance doesn't necessarily catch for, I think, a 24-hour business. I think it more is aligned with the other veterinary clinics in Calabasas have closing hours. And so, for example, once closing hours, they wouldn't be able to, for example, kennel or board an animal overnight. I'll let the applicant, though, speak to what specific, how they specifically detail that.
Thanks. I didn't quite understand that either. So, because I assume if somebody comes in, I mean, if a pet comes in at 11 p.m., they're going to be there for a few hours, or maybe even overnight while they're recuperating. But well, anyway, I don't know how else it could be otherwise. But
yeah, I think kenneling and boarding, I think, is a separate use.
Oh,
And
I
so,
see.
So I do believe some veterinary clinics do, for example, like would kennel an animal that would stay overnight. And so I think that'd be a little different than like a surgery maybe where that animal will be there for 3 or 4 hours versus
right.
being in a specific kennel where they need to be let out to go to the bathroom and so on.
Okay.
That was along the lines that I was going to ask the applicant. What
Okay.
if you have an emergency? You're not going to say, okay, you got to go home. They're going to be,
No.
since it's open 24 hours, they could hold on to that animal.
Right. I mean, if I may, they're going to treat the animal. That's what they are at an emergency clinic. So, and obviously, just like at the hospital with people, sometimes they've got more animals and not enough staff, and people are going to have to wait, and the animals have to wait. So they're going to have capacity to take care of multiple animals, but they're not kenneling them.
No,
They're not designed to be able to have them, that
Boarding
includes
in the sense of
outdoor
a
areas.
hotel, but recuperating, that's what I was concerned about.
Well, they could do that. They just
Okay.
can't kennel them.
Okay.
Okay, I guess it's definitions. All right.
Nothing.
John, any questions? All right, then, we can open the public hearing, and I've got, one card if you want to come up, Amar Veer Brar, and let us know, and let us know both names and what city you reside in.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Amarveer Brar. I'm from the law firm Allen Mackins, and I'm here on behalf of Veterinary Emergency Group. I'm from the city of Los Angeles. I'm also joined here by Samantha Fishbone, who comes from Veterinary Emergency Group headquarters, or as we like to call them, VEG. First,
Why don't you call them veg?
that's a good question. I feel like veg.
But it's not a soft G anyway.
It's not all right, we can call them veg tonight. So first off, just thank you to staff. Mr. Hayes, appreciate your work and efforts today, and thank you all for your time. But as discussed, we're here to talk about the CUP for VEG and their 24/7 emergency animal clinic. So I think staff did a great job of talking through some of the more planning-specific points. We wanted to just introduce Veterinary Emergency Group and kind of explain who they are. VEG has a single mission, and that's helping people and their pets when they need it most. The company was founded in 2014. It's the only nationwide emergency veterinary business. They've been growing. The company has more than 89 locations as of today, I think, across 25 states, including 9 in the state of California. And there are a few things that really separate Veterinary Emergency Group from other emergency veterinary clinics. To begin, or even animal clinics generally. VEG only performs emergency veterinary services. They don't offer vaccinations, they don't do spaying or neutering, they don't do routine checkups or boarding. They're simply an ER for pets. And on the question of boarding and kenneling, as staff noted, there is no kenneling or boarding of animals on site. There are areas for pets to be put into a space where they can be monitored, but as soon as they're ready to go home, they do go home. So I think to the commissioner's question about what happens if an animal is sick and needs more time, that they will be under the care of a veterinarian, a veterinary tech throughout their time, and made sure that they're monitored and well cared for. One interesting thing, speaking of care, is that during treatment, VEG doesn't separate people from their pets. You can choose to stay with your pet throughout all procedures that they might need, or at least in case of surgery, just next door. And as a pet owner myself, who's actually had to use one of Veterinary Emergency Group's facilities, I can say that their facilities and standard of care are top-notch, and it's very reassuring to be there when your dog is in need of care, and the dog feels great about it too. So we think that the VEG use is a vital one for the community. Most vet clinics and hospitals close after normal business hours. VEG does not. We find that most emergencies happen when people come home from work and they find something has happened during the day and now their pet's there, but the clinics have all closed. Or on the weekends or on a Sunday when you're taking your dog out for a hike in the hills and something happens and you need to go to a vet clinic. Most, if not all, emergency care services in the area are closed on Sundays. And there are none in the city of Calabasas. So staff are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they handle all emergency situations that arise. And so I think just thinking about that, the project brings a much needed service to the city of Calabasas in a very central location. And it's great for both Calabasas residents and residents of nearby neighborhoods. As we discussed, the site is the courtyards at the Commons. Staff mentioned it's surrounded by many mixed uses. The Anza Hotel is a dog-friendly hotel, and all the other businesses in the area are a mix of retail, bank, and grocery. We will be occupying the 4,344 square foot space that was discussed earlier. The project consists entirely of interior tenant improvements. VEG does a great job of building everything out with high-end finishes, custom cabinetry, Italian tile flooring. And the thing I really want to point out is that VEG is an experienced operator. As we noted earlier, they've been around for 10 years now. They have 89 locations. They've really dialed in their process. I think a lot of times people have concerns with a veterinary use of, is there odor or noise?
Go ahead.
They've worked very hard to dial in both their HVAC equipment, their noise abatement, so that these aren't concerns. In fact, they're in certain buildings in places like Boston and New York, where they're on the ground floor of apartment buildings, and those places have been operating successfully. So I think when we take into consideration the physical location of the site, the surrounding uses, and VEG's operations, this is I think, a use that fits within the character of the surrounding area. We discussed the floor plan. You can see the open concept, and that's where you can kind of stay with your pet, and there is areas where pets can be monitored if they need in additional care. And that's really all we wanted to discuss with you today, and so we're hoping that we could receive this commission's approval of the CUP, and we are on hand to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Any other questions? Do you have any questions?
Well, I do have questions, but it may be for the applicant as opposed to the attorney.
Well,
He was the attorney, I think.
he's from, yes, he's from the law
We're
firm.
both here on behalf of the company,
But they're
but
both part of the team.
I understand, but in terms of facts, usually the client has it more than the lawyer.
well, we're both
So
here.
I'll ask the question, you guys decide
Sounds good.
who to answer, okay?
That sounds great.
All right, great. So you've answered the issue over the 24/7 non-kenneling, non-boarding, and I think we all had that question. So thank you for answering that. What kind of animals other than cats and dogs do you typically see?
Small household animals. It could be bunny rabbit, guinea pig, all those different things. Actually makes us unique, unlike other places. So anything outside of a cat and a dog is considered an exotic. And so many people have goldfish or bunny rabbits or guinea pigs, and a lot of places don't see them. We actually had somebody once drive 8 hours from Reno to our location in San Ramon because nobody would see their bunny rabbit between there. So we really help to bring in kind of all household pet care.
Have you had any experience with snake bites
Nope.
or coyote bites? Because
No,
we
no
do have
coyotes.
some of that problem here.
You see, if
Oh,
like a dog gets bit by a
oh, yes.
coyote or
Yes.
something.
Oh, yeah, yes. Our doctors can do all that, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
There's a Santa Monica location
Yeah.
that I think has very good
Pretty similar
experience
to
with
us.
hiking in the area.
So I was wondering, of these 9 California locations, how many of them, if you know, are in a shopping center like this?
Almost all of them, for the most part, actually.
Okay?
Obviously, Santa Monica is on its own, but
Oh, that's a standalone
it's a
operation?
standalone, yeah. It's right next to Erewhon.
But some of the others are
Almost all
in
of them.
shopping centers?
Yeah.
And have you had any experience in California with complaints? I know no odor complaints from
No, as he-
tenants?
As he said, we attained the highest levels of noise and odor. We are in the base of luxury residential towers in Miami, Manhattan, Boston. We locate next to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, lots of daily needs food users, high-end restaurants, and so on.
Either of you know what sound bat insulation means?
Yeah, that's basically insulation in both the walls to insulate from sound, and then we also put tiles up on the ceiling, so any sound that travels up is captured by those, and there's additional insulation there.
Okay. And I think I noticed the flooring is such that it can all be
Yeah.
kind of washed down and disinfected and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Exactly. Impervious surfaces, so they're easily cleaned.
In fact, every station has water, running water to it as well, which is why our utilities are so specific for us, to make sure that everything is completely clean at all times. Every single treatment table, every room.
How many animals typically would you have on any given night?
It depends on the hour. I'd say we usually see between 1 and 3 patients during our busiest hours, which are usually between 6 and 10 p.m. Maybe 1 or 2 on the later hours after that. So they tend to come between 15 to 20 to 30 throughout an entire 24-hour day, but they're always sporadic and spaced out.
Is this 4,000 plus square feet kind of typical?
Yes.
Well.
Yes, because we are an open concept, and so the idea with us is that a doctor can see everything going on from one side of the room to the other, and so therefore it has to be a certain size to be able to do all of that.
So it's embarrassing for me not to know this, but do we have veterinarian services in Calabasas, but not emergency ones?
You do not have a 24/7 emergency in
But
Calabasas.
do we have regular vets?
Yes, and we actually partner with them. So the reason that we don't do the spays, boarders, neuters, vaccines, GP wells, we actually partner with them. And so what happens is when they're closed, they refer to us. And then, if they're open, they can take them. But oftentimes, the regular GPs are by appointment only and usually very busy. Sometimes a case comes in they can't handle, whether it's a surgery or something like that, so they come to us. So we actually are a benefit to everyone in the community.
Yeah, I think I've seen some vet emergency places in Woodland Hills.
Yes, there's one in Woodland Hills.
There's one off Topanga.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the closest 24-hour emergency care center. It's off Topanga and Ventura. And then the next one would be in Agora Hills off of Reyes Adobe, so a good 10 miles from here.
Oh, right. I know
There's
that.
one in Thousand Oaks, also off of Moore Park Road.
Okay. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Michael, I have a question. Say you have a pet that has recurring emergencies, pancreatic attacks. So they would have to have a regular doctor that you would work with?
Yes. So they would only come to us if, let's say, their regular doctor was shut down and let's say it was after hours. You know, they could come to us to be treated to maintain their health until that doctor opens, in which case, once they would open, we would refer them back to them.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question on the signage. I believe Joel said the signage is not included. Do you have to come back to us for the signage, or because otherwise that's.
That'll just be a zoning clearance sign, a sign permit.
Okay, because obviously it'll conform to the center.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in the general
Our
style.
The
team
sign
works
program already is
specifically
in
with the sign
existence.
program.
They just have to adhere to the sign program.
Oh, perfect,
Yeah.
okay. All right, any discussion? Then I guess we can close the public hearing. I don't have any other cards for this.
Yes, you may close.
All right, so it's closed, and then how about discussion or a motion, or
Oh, I move approval.
is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
That's a motion to have the staff prepare a
Yes.
approval.
Yes. Sorry for being inarticulate.
No, that's fine, and just, we're getting used to our ways. No,
No other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
And no opposed. Thank you very much. And we look forward to having this in Calabasas.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome.
So that was item number 4. Now we go on to item number 5, which is, is a request for a lot of items. The Kia.
Excuse me, Vice Chair.
Oh, sorry.
It's, we just finished item number 3. We're now on to item number 4, which is the Kia.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 4. Well, this is the Kia dealership.
Correct.
This is a public hearing item. I guess I can, well, do we have a very brief, because we don't need to go through the whole report since we're being asked to continue this, but can you briefly just mention what this is, and then we can open a public hearing? We have one card.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Harrison.
Oh,
So,
it's you. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry. So,
Sorry,
just
Jack.
briefly, I want to make one correction to the staff report. In the staff report, we had initially requested that the item be continued to the January 16th Planning Commission meeting. We are instead requesting that it be continued to a date uncertain, which would require that new public hearing notices be sent out. The applicants requested a little bit more time. We don't know exactly how much time, so that's why we're going to do date uncertain instead of the January meeting.
Thank you. Do we need to get any information on this? We do have one speaker, so do you want to describe what this is, or I don't want to, or do you want me to read all of this?
I don't think, unless for legal purposes we need to read the entire description, I don't think we need to get into the project too much tonight, but
Okay.
yeah, we do have a speaker.
We don't need to read the entire description. We can just make reference to item number 4, SPR 2023.-004.
Okay, thank you. This is for a proposed Kia dealership at the old Sperling Nursery site at 24460 Calabasas Road. So I'm going to open the public hearing, and I guess we'll have comments, and then probably close it and just continue it to a date uncertain, assuming everybody agrees. So the only card I have is from Tim Smith from the BMW and Mini dealerships.
I'm Tim Smith. Our family owns Bob Smith BMW. We've been in Calabasas now for 22 years, if you can imagine. I just wanted to comment on a few things on the project that we're really concerned about, and it centers around just a few what we feel are important issues. Number one, the driveway, actually the site has is a very narrow piece of property that fronts, and it has about 170 feet of frontage on Calabasas, right east of our dealership. And the proposal is to move the driveway toward our dealership and leaving only 11 feet of separation between our eastern driveway and their only driveway, which is the driveway that will access all purposes of entering that dealership, service, sales, everything. There will be heavy vehicle traffic going from both driveways. And they're only 11 feet apart, so cars will be turning left, cars will be turning right, and that sort of thing. This could result in car-to-car accidents and also bicyclists that are, whoops,
No, it's our.
My
I
fault.
ran out of time, huh?
Go ahead.
At any rate, they don't play music here. Oh, that's right, so at any rate, it's too close, and the applicant's line of sight analysis in the traffic study does not address this narrow driveway separation and the line of sight between the two driveways. Secondly, we have, our civil engineer has reviewed the KIA plan, and they've proposed a couple of alternatives. Number one, moving the driveway to the middle, closer to the middle of the property, so there's sufficient distance. We've asked for a meeting with the applicant's engineer and our engineer to discuss alternative locations, site accessibility, loading zone for transports, and left turn lane into the dealership. In my view, the building should be situated at least 40 feet farther back so you have more options on how you route the driveway. There must be better solutions to make it as safe for both our dealership and theirs. A circulation study probably should be prepared for that. Finally, and a big concern, well, not finally, but is the parking needs in the dealership, proposed dealership. Their annual sales volume is projected to be 2,000 new cars, and that amounts to 166 sales a month. If you assume a 60-day supply, which is about the normal these days in car dealerships, particularly Kia and Hyundai and Toyota and so on, that translates to 330 vehicles in stock most of the time. So that you've got to find a location for all those cars. That's 2 months' supply. Then normal good business practices would project pre-owned sales to be of at least 80 vehicles a month that you'd sell off the lot, resulting in an inventory of about 100 vehicles. Now you have to have somewhere to put those 100 vehicles in inventory. So that takes from 330 up to 430. We have about 120 employees. Most of them come to work in their personal vehicles. I'm sure theirs will too. And if they're operating at full throttle, they'll probably have at least 100 employees. So where are they going to park their cars? And then you have the need for customer vehicles in for service, and you've got the need for visitors parking, coming in and finding parking conveniently. And by my calculation, they need about 550 to 600 capacity for cars. They're going to be selling the same amount of cars we are. We have a capacity on our own property of about 550 vehicles. So that is if the site is underparked, where's the mitigation plan? I'd like to know what they plan to do to mitigate the problems of not having enough parking space too. The final thing that I'd like to, And it also hasn't been reviewed by the Traffic and Transportation Commission, as far as we know. And this is a major street, particularly with the dealerships operational. There's a 45-mile speed limit, and people drive far in excess of that frequently. They always seem to be in a hurry. The Traffic and Transportation Commission's charge is public safety and circulation. They should also review parking studies for adequacy. We've raised this issue previously, and we haven't seen their response from the applicant. Finally, not enough attention has been given to the car transports, the trucks that bring in the vehicles. They're about 90 feet long, and they come up from Parkway Calabasas, and they usually turn around in that street and park in the middle. And we're the only dealership that has sufficient width. So we'll be the lucky dealership that has all those trucks coming up and in, I assume, the median, and which restricts left turns and out of the property and left turns into the property. And it also restricts visibility of oncoming traffic. So if you have two transports there at the same time, they need at least 200 feet to do that. Now the full front footage, repeat, is 170 feet of the Kia property. So they can't park, they can't set that in front of that, because the amount of space needed, even if there's one, it will restrict people coming in there for service and the whole thing. So you can, as I said, finally, if the transporters come into our neighborhood from Parkway out Calabasas, which they do nearly, for whatever reason, they don't come up Moreau Road from Malibu Canyon. So they could drive up and then they turn around, oftentimes backing into our service drive so they can turn it around, and they usually offload facing east. So these are serious problems, and if we don't solve those problems, my daughters are going to have to live with them for a long time to come. So I'd appreciate a good look at those issues, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much. We don't have any other cards, and I think if we continue, I mean, unless the commissioners wish to speak, this item's going to be continued. I mean, do we have to vote on that, or?
I think so.
Okay. So thank you very much for your comments, and I hope people have written that down. And is there a motion to continue this to a date uncertain?
I'm just curious, is this staff recommending the continuance or the applicant?
The applicant, and it is partially to give them some time to address some comments that came in response to the environmental document. So they need a little bit more time to work through those comments.
Staff is supportive of it as well. We have been meeting with representatives of Bob Smith, BMW, and Kia to address some of the issues that the speaker brought up. And hopefully by the time we get to the hearing, some of these things will be worked out a little greater, and we'll have more information in response to comments that have made, not only tonight verbally, but in the written correspondence. So yes, staff is favorable for a continuance as well.
Thank you.
I have a point. When this comes back to the commission, I think the packet we get should have a transcript of the speaker who just was here. He had a lot of points, and we should have a full transcript of what he is concerned about.
The speaker provided comments in writing as well and addressed the points that he said verbally. So that's already going to be part of the packet.
All right, you've seen his comments in writing, are they?
Yes, he submitted them in writing as well.
I mean, it's close to what he said.
Consistent.
Yes.
Okay. That's all right.
I would also like to mention that the story polls have been up for a while, and I would encourage all of you, everyone, to actually not just everyone watching, to go visit, to go you can sort of park across the street and take a look, because it's a little different from the other dealers, other dealerships. So go
Good
take a
idea.
look at the how it's located, let's put it that way, situated. So is there a motion to continue to a date uncertain?
I'll move.
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Just so I make sure I've got the notes correct. Sound like Bob made the motion
Yes.
and John seconded?
No,
Oh,
no.
Matt motioned?
No, no.
Matt, second.
motioned, I seconded.
You guys are being consistent this evening.
Yeah, they're the movers over here.
Thank you.
Movers and shakers,
Look at them
okay.
hatched.
So now we get to an interesting item, number 5, general plan consistency determination for acquiring a property located in the old Topanga overlay zone. This is the one I think that Glenn you're going to speak about, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and I don't really have a staff report for you. I think the written staff report was pretty clear. In order for any city to accept property, if we have an adopted general plan, we're required to make a consistency finding with that general plan. So I brought up a few points in here that I think are relevant, which are we have discussion in our community design element that specifically talks about the need in these antiquated subdivisions where this property is located to acquire and extinguish the development rights on them. So I think that's point one. Point two would be if it were part of our RENA requirement, and we have a housing element in the city that identifies vacant properties as potentially contributing to RENA. However, for the RC zone, it's already identified that these are hard to develop lots, and we weren't considering them. So, and then as you're all familiar with our open space element, we talk about it quite a bit. We have a program to acquire open space for all sorts of purposes, which I've written in the staff report, recreation and resources on site, whatnot. So we're not approving the actual accepting of the property. That's the city council's job. Your job tonight is to find that accepting this property would be consistent with the general plan. So that's all I have for
All right.
staff presentation. But if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Any questions over here?
Title report? Do we have a title report on the property?
Well, we have title document.
Yep.
They're blank. It's almost like a blank 1040.
Well, we know, we can see who the title, I mean, who owns it. We see that. I can't pronounce it, but
It was part of Exhibit B. It's in there.
yes, it's
And
Exhibit
there are
B.
supposedly 2 owners.
Yes, it's a husband and wife,
and
it's
the-
joint tenants.
But there's only one guy saying, I'm going to donate this. I mean, it's,
Well, he says, my wife, so-and-so, and I are pleased to have the opportunity to contribute. So it does mention that they both would.
They
And
both
is
have
it-
to execute it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not, it doesn't mean much.
Staff will go through the process, of course, and preparing the grant deed and having the appropriate people sign it. The limited purpose tonight is to find a general plan consistency.
but shouldn't we know whether there are any liens on the property, you know? Could be
Oh, I
a
see what
Trojan
you mean.
horse.
I see what you mean. So, yeah, that we don't know. We don't know if there are liens, we don't know, you know, what the obligations
Well-
are, and that sort of thing.
Liens are typically in the title report, and there are exclusions from them. So we looked for easements, we looked for liens. None of that are on this property.
All right, so there's no loans or anything like that?
No encumbrances.
Okay.
I did have one question. I'm sorry, Bob, are you done?
No, go ahead.
I didn't quite understand if the city council accepts this gift, it cannot be developed? There's going to be some,
Well, we would own it, and our policy has been to retire development rights. So if it's now or in the future, we'll probably rezone it to OSDR, and that'll be that. But it'll be under city ownership.
so, okay.
So I suppose in theory, the city can choose to develop it if it wants to.
Although the general plan policy supports what Glenn was bringing up in his written report and his summation, that for antiquated subdivisions such as Old Topanga, where you have underserved capabilities for infrastructure, for utilities, typically, and most common, and certainly for Old Topanga, lack of sanitary sewer, right? So because of that, it's a policy to relinquish development rights as much as we can, fairly, legally, and with somebody donating land, that works, that meets that objective.
But you're not tonight committing in perpetuity what happens to this property?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I
Not
mean, if
tonight.
somebody graciously gave the city a piece of property in a perfect RENA location, you'd evaluate it differently than this.
Correctly. If this was something that was happening with one of the identified sites, hypothetically, in the housing element, that would be a different ballgame. That would be contrary to the policies of the general plan. This one clearly is within and meets those policies, at least in terms of the staff analysis. And the question put to the commission is, do you agree with that?
So,
Thank you.
I mean, I still don't quite understand. If this parcel cannot be developed, it doesn't have utilities, it's, why would the city want ownership? Would the city have obligations like brush clearance, paying taxes?
Correct.
Why wouldn't we just?
We would inherit some liabilities. However, I'll slightly disagree with you that at the present time, although it would be difficult to develop, you can engineer anything. We've seen that, and we've seen attempts at properties as bad as this. People attempt to develop them. So it can't happen. So we're just following a long policy that we've had to acquire property. It's adjacent to two parcels that we already own.
What's the dimensions of this property in, in feet? Because I really don't think it could be developed.
Unless you're building a sliding pond.
Yeah.
Let's see, 53 feet wide by 247 feet long.
So the 53 feet wide is a problem because they would have to have 10-foot setbacks on either side.
Well, there's an overlay zone there, so the setbacks are a little bit different in that overlay zone, and there's plenty of houses in that area on properties exactly like this. So yeah, and we've seen some difficult applications over the years. I can remember two on Dorothy Road that went through a heck of a process, and we ended up, I think, approving one and denying one. They wanted two, and they ended up walking away from that project. But they could have made it work. It was too expensive for them, and it may be the same case on this one. But there was a process that's already been through. We have an open space task force with 2 council members on there that have already opined just to move forward. I mean, they're still going to take it to the council to make the decision ultimately. But we're taking this through the process, and the reason we're here tonight is just to see if acquiring the property is consistent with the general plan, and that's it.
And what is the burden to the city as far as like losing tax revenue and brush clearance and that sort of thing?
I don't have figures for you tonight. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah, sure.
Is the donor given a reason why they're generously doing this?
Never gave us a reason, no.
Tax deduction.
Yeah, they'll get a tax deduction of some kind.
That's what we're guessing.
And they would they get less of a tax deduction if they executed some sort of restrictive covenant?
I'm not sure I heard that question. Could you repeat it, please?
I mean, maybe the city attorney could answer. So there's a restrictive covenant paper in here. I don't know what it's, so that's an alternative to just donating the land, just putting a restriction on your own property so that it can never be developed.
I can't say specifically as to this particular property, but if property have deed restrictions that limit the ability to develop it, that can reduce the value of the property.
So why wouldn't we want to do something like that, which means it can never be developed, as opposed to taking the property and then losing the tax revenue and being obliged to clear, to do brush clearance every year?
At this moment, we're not given that option. I didn't get a letter that states, please accept the conservation easement on behalf of this property.
Oh, I only brought it up because
They're offering it
there's
to
a
us.
paper here with with. it
And we're
says-
deciding if we want it or not.
So what, so there's a paper here that says restrictive covenant.
The question, just to reframe the question, the planning commission is being asked to make a determination of whether an acceptance of a donated property, this one in particular on Old Topanga, would be consistent with the general plan policies.
Okay,
It is not the commission's decision as to whether or not that property should be accepted. That is the city council's determination.
okay, all right.
Well,
Any
I-
other questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have questions. Let's assume, for discussion purposes, that there will be significant liability attached to that property. Shouldn't that work into our decision? It certainly would work into mine.
The city council will be provided with information that includes anticipated fiscal impacts, which, of course, the city council needs to look at. They're in charge of the budget and the spending of funds for the city, which the commission is not. So that will be information that will be shared with the city council.
Yeah, I think.
But the staff has no ability to even take this to city council if we're dealing with something that is contrary to the general plan policy, because we would have a determination from this body that is inconsistent with the general plan, if you would decide that it is. Our analysis that we've presented through Glenn's reports is that it is consistent with those policies, and we're asking this commission to consider that and render your decision.
Yeah, I think we need to be mindful of our scope here
All
and
right.
stay in our lane, you know what I mean? And right now, I don't see any reasons why this wouldn't be consistent with the general plan, so.
Do you want to make a motion then?
One more question. Do we know who owns the
We have to
adjacent
make a finding.
properties?
City.
The city owns properties on one side of it, so this would simply add to city holdings that are right there along Old Topanga.
On
And the
one-
city owns properties proximate as well, just what, about 300 feet to the east, what were called the city lopper lots.
If that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have to make a motion.
I think Matt's
To-
about to.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm moved to find that this acquisition would be consistent with the general plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous then. Thank you. Sorry for all the questions. We were just trying to figure out what was going on here. So next we have the director's report, if there is one.
Well, there won't be from the director since he's away on a vacation, and I'm not allowed to divulge where, but it's somewhere on this planet. So this will be simple, just to let you know what's coming up. Obviously, we have the holidays literally around the corner, so I want to wish everybody a happy holiday and enjoy the time we're not meeting. The January 16th meeting was one that we anticipated having Kia, but as you know from that item, when you just continued it, it won't be that date, it'll be at a date future that we'll renotice. So the January 16th meeting, we'll say it right now is tentative. We don't know whether we'll have something else for the commission, but chances are it'll be canceled unless something comes up between now and then. And then the meeting after that would be February 6th. That one is more likely to be a meeting where Kia would be back on your agenda, and if not that, it would be the next meeting in February. We're projecting that Kia will be back in February,
What about the January 2nd meeting?
but I don't know which date yet.
What about the January 2nd meeting?
January 2nd,
That's our next meeting.
that's canceled.
Oh, it just says adjournment to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To the January 2nd.
Well,
meeting.
you could adjourn to pick a
We
meeting.
don't have to pick a date, but
But we can
it,
still cancel a meeting you adjourn to.
right, sure. It just said here, we're having a meeting on January 2nd. So we're not having a meeting on January 2nd, maybe on January 16th, but we'll find out.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good.
I'm sorry I wasn't clear.
No, that's okay. Anything from the planning commissioners, any reports?
I just wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Thank you. Yes, anything?
Ditto.
Ditto for me too. Happy holidays to everybody. Then we are adjourned unless there's anything else, right? Okay, we're adjourned then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.